this thing is now not a problem that I'm not allowed to start any new books. Good evening, guys. Welcome back to another video. I've not filmed in so long. I've technically still got a video on the run that I've put pause to because it's a specific book and I've just not been in the mood for reading. Like, I don't know whether I'm in a book slump, whether I'm burnt out after December, whether it's because of the season and like the month of January. Like, I've been taking a vitamin D and all of that, but I don't know whether it's helping. And I've just been in more of like a playing Sims 4 mood, which to be fair I hadn't done in a while, but again I don't know whether I can put that down to being busy in December or whether that's actually just me. So I have actually been awake since like 5:30 this morning because of coming out of a night shift, because I'm doing a shift that starts at 12:30 in the afternoon tomorrow, so I had to like shift my sleeping pattern. So I've been awake for like almost 14 hours at this point and I've done 0 reading. I've played estimated 5 hours of Sims, so you know, it's not as though I haven't had the time. I've literally just been relaxing. Also, these are new curtains behind me in case anyone like notices and are like, oh, and like if someone clocks it. The old curtains won't black out, basically meaning doesn't block any of the light, and literally did not block any of the light. Obviously it's going to block a tiny bit, but they were like cream curtains, they weren't black out, and during night shifts and staying here that's not cohesive. So there are new curtains, they are blackout. They also just so happen to be thermal as well, which is obviously going to be quite nice, but there's just in case anyone had noticed. Now the thing is I haven't finished any books yet in January. I've done some reading, like on my night shifts I've done like a little bit of reading. I've done just the odd like bit of reading, but I've not finished a book. There's one where I kind of, for whatever reason, mentally put myself off from finishing it, even though I've only got like an hour Kindle wise to finish it. Also, these aren't stick down, so they just keep moving about. I just started an audiobook, listened to it on my drive from my actual home to work, so, and got through 25% of that because of it, and I just haven't picked it up since. That book is The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. Yes, it is a Christmas book that I picked up in January, because I did start it in January. For some reason I thought it was a really short book. It's not, but it's on Kindle Unlimited, so I've just downloaded it on there in hopes that I'll get through it on there, because I've just not been in the mood to listen to an audiobook whilst I'm in the car. I have got a lot of books on Kindle. I'm in the middle of currently reading like 20. I had started like a book in this month, like another book called Dial P for Poison. I started that briefly on a night shift. I have made progress on books, so I've read a significant amount more of Where the Crawdad Sings, so I'm now 44% of the way through. Now the book that I've got like an hour left of is Metal Slinger. I'm currently 86% of the way through. Actually, I started 3 books. I'm currently 74% of the way through The Potting Shed Murder, 56% of the way through Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. That's the book that I've technically read more, because it's like a longer book, hence why I've not finished it. I also started The Secret Mage by Jennifer Rochford. I'm currently 36% of the way through that, and then I've made a little bit of progress through an arc that I had. I don't know where I got the arc from, but I'm 18% of the way through Swim to Me by Elle Knox. I think those are the books that I've got on Kindle. I didn't make any more progress onto Sleep in a Sea of Stars. I haven't in months. And also another book, actually no, I also started Beg, Borrow or Steal by Sarah Adams. That's the book for a different video, and I'm about 33% of the way through that as well. but I've not been in a reading, like a finishing books mood. Like, I've made progress on The Potting Shed Murder. I did also get as an ARC, and I got that through NetGalley. I got that months ago, like months ago. So it would be good for me to finish that so I can do that review. Potentially get ARCs in the future, I don't know. But it would be good to at least give that review. With Where the Crawdad Sings, I feel like it's started to slightly pick up in terms of making it more interesting. Because to start with, it seemed like two very different like people, plot points, but now it's kind of got to the point of the merging, and I'm quite happy about that. I think I'm gonna focus on The Potting Shed Murder and Metal Slinger. Also, I forgot to say, this is like a what I realistically read in a week. So I might get some reading done tomorrow. Probably won't. So today is the Thursday. I probably will get some done on Friday because I'm staying in the Travelodge overnight. So I might get like an hour or two in then, but I don't expect to technically get any done on Saturday because I'm doing like a long day. I might technically get some done like an hour or two, like an hour, like right at the start of Sunday, just because of how late I get back. And if I don't, like if I leave work soon enough, I could get back before midnight. I will update you later in the night as to whether I finish any books, because a 20 book currently reading is too much. So I'm not starting any new books, even though I do want to, which I think is part of the reason why I'm in this mood, because I desperately want to pick up like Light Lark and just other books that are on my January TBR, and I've not been able to get to them. It's now just over an hour later and I have finished The Potting Shed Murder. I'm rating this a 3 stars. It's definitely a good murder mystery, and I definitely didn't guess like the overall ending, so that was good, but at the same time I still think it was overall like weaved slightly in between, so like it didn't come too much of a shock. I think what dropped the rating is the fact that I read the prologue and the first chapter a while back and then kind of picked it up more recently, and I still enjoyed it, but also I think because of the overall funk that I'm in, it definitely lowered the rating. I still need to do my NetGalley review, but it feels good to get a book off my currently reading, a book that I've now read, so that's quite nice. I will go on to Metal Slinger next, just because I've got just under an hour left, and so again, just to try and finish another book, get it finished, it would be good to do that. I don't know what I'm going to read after, but if I can get 2 easy ones off my currently reading, that would be perfect. But yeah, I thought I'd update you. So it's now basically 8:30, so a little bit of time before I call it a night. So it's now 9:35, so just over an hour later. I didn't read any more of Metal Slinger, but I did finish the first novella for the Mindfuck series. I rated it at 4 stars. It was good, it was enjoyable. I read like the first half in like one go, and then I think it was like 55%. Then I've read the last bit. It only took me, I think it was like half an hour. How could it have only been half an hour? Oh yeah, so I did my review on NetGalley and then read it. Yeah, so I rated it at 4 stars. I think I've lowered the rating just because I read the first half in one go. But that ending, I'm definitely interested to read book 2 or novella 2. I have downloaded a arc from NetGalley. It's one of the ones that you can just download and read automatically, which is obviously going to help me overall when trying to review books in the future. But also this book doesn't come out until September, so I've got time. Like, I've got 9 months ish, just under 9 months. But yeah, that's another book that's like off my currently reading. So is that my currently reading down to 18, I believe? Okay, so apparently my currently reading is at 19. But again, I think the next book that I'm going to continue reading is Metal Slinger, because again, it's the one that I'm the furthest through. But at least if I can get through Metal Slinger, I can work through something else. I think I'm going to work through my Kindle books first, just because most of these books are on Kindle, and so would therefore be easier to get through, as I will just have them to hand. Quite a successful night, to be fair. And I did start today. I think I was like 3 books behind schedule for my Goodreads goal. By the way, I set it at 50 because I was like, okay, so I read 100 books last year, and I thought if I set it at 50, it felt quite reasonable for if I went over that. And if I majorly went over that, or like I found like I was coming close to that goal by like the middle of the year, then I'll just increase it to 75. But I don't want to force myself. I'm just able to get through some of them now because I'd made progress previously. This might be like the last time I update you guys tonight, just because I don't want to sound repetitive of being like, I finished a book. I finished a book. Like, I don't want to do that tonight, and also because I do think if I read Metal Slinger, that would literally be the final book that I read tonight, and then maybe I'd read like something else with like less brain power, like as like a little cozy nighttime read before I properly go to bed. I changed my mind and decided to read The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. There was like a 1-minute chapter, and when I say 1 minute, it was literally like 2 pages worth. Literally, one of the characters does something and was like, oh look, this thing is now not a problem. And I have just giggled so much. Like, I'm sorry, but that is peak comedy. But like, what's the word? Deadpan comedy? Like, you can tell that this person is reading it deadpan. Like, this person would have, like, this character would have said it deadpan. And like, I'm sorry, but that is the best thing ever. And I do not regret deciding to pick this up instead. I don't think I'm in the mind space for fantasy that I know is going to end on some shocking thing. I need something lighthearted and funny, and I think this is going to deliver. And I cannot wait. It's now a few days later. Currently it's 1 a.m. on Monday. Today, well, not today, then on Sunday, I read for maybe 2.5 hours. I haven't finished any like new book. I still have Metal Slinger to finish, but what I did is, so the book that I read for 15 minutes was The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. So I don't know how much time I dedicated to each book, but I read another 10% of The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year, and then I read like 40% of The Secret Mage by Jennifer Rochford, and that's all that I read yesterday. I'm currently 55% into The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year and 75% into The Secret Mage, and I have about 45 minutes to go of that book, I think. Let me check. 46. So yeah, I've got a short amount of time left on that. For The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year, how much have I got left? I've got 1 hour and 53. Currently it's the start of the 27th. I wanted to film this update because I want to read a little bit more before I go to bed. So I wanted to make sure I had like an accurate representation of like what I read like yesterday. I'm really enjoying The Wonderful Crime of the Year. I know I only read 10%, but it's just because after that 10% I was like, this is fun, but I'm not in the mood for it right now. But it's still enjoyable, and like I'm liking how it's kind of coming across so far, and like how it's developing, and I still don't know the kind of answer, but I'm interested to know how it's going to end. And then The Secret Mage is just, it's a fun, it's like YA. I think it's like a romantasy. Currently it's just fantasy, but there's like glimmers of like potential romance. I think this is part of a series. I don't know whether it won't be like a series that I'm really wanting to finish, like continue, but it's still like a fun book, but it's also nothing like special. I think I'm gonna read The Secret Mage just because I am tired, so I don't want to read Metal Singer because I know that stuff's gonna happen that I'm not expecting. Okay, so it's now pretty much 24 hours later, I think, or about that. Anyway, so basically it's now very early hours of the 28th. Basically, yesterday after I updated you guys, I read on my Kindle, I read The Secret Mage, or whatever it was called, and I finished the book. I think I only had like an hour left, I believe, so obviously it was quite easy to do. Then I woke up and I was like, and I wanted to read, and I think in total yesterday I might have only read for about 2 hours, well, 2.5 maybe, around that. But I finished Metal Slinger, which I have to say the ending was spoiled for me because I knew to expect something, unfortunately. I read a little bit of the Gingerbread Christmas Village. I only read a chapter, which was, this particular chapter was 14 pages, and I did also read a chapter of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which I think was maybe about 22-ish minutes long. So I didn't read for too long, but I know that at the same time I was able to read for more than what a lot of people are able to read for. I don't know what I'm gonna read today. I think for the last few days of January, I think I'm gonna prioritize The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year and also the Gingerbread Village one that I've just mentioned, just because it would be good to contain Christmassy ones to be finished by the end of January and then go on to something new. Also, I have decided that I'm not going to do a TBR video for February because I am focusing on getting through my currently reading, but I was really excited for the books that were on my January TBR, so I'm just carrying those books over. But at the same time, I've kind of given myself a rule that I'm not allowed to start any new books until I've got below 10 of my currently reading. The last update, I think, was when I said about having read some more of Where the Crawdad Sings. I haven't read any more of that, but I think I would also like to try and keep that, like finish that by the end of January as well, because it's about time that I finish it and just get it over and done with. Like, I don't think it's a bad book necessarily. It's kind of half me, half the book. And I looked on Goodreads and some people had like the same kind of thoughts around it as I did. This book isn't going to be rated highly at all. I'm interested enough to know what happens, but at the same time I did also read it in a Goodreads review, so I know what happens basically. I do actually have a physical copy here. It's crazy that the last time I folded a page was on like page 50, and I don't know. Let me find where I am. So in this book, I've read 188 pages. And this book, obviously I'm 51% of the way through anyway, so I already know. 368, 180 pages to go, so yeah, the 51%. I know so many people, like if you're watching to this point, you're probably just screaming, just DNF. I did DNF 2 books last year, where I listened to like the first chapter via audiobook and I was just like, absolutely not. This is cringy as fuck, and it was like a chapter in. I think that's the only book like that where I purchased it properly and it's not my kind of thing. Like now when I pick literary fiction books up, I kind of pick them based off of the booktubers that I watch. So like Rachel, Sarah, Des, Megan, like from Meg with Books or whatever her channel's called. Emmy, if she reads them, she doesn't. She's a fantasy girl, but if she was to ever read one and enjoy it, then that's kind of a big indicator. Hayley, there's the odd other booktuber where I'm sure if I hear enough about it and I hear good things, and it sounds like it would be something that I'd at least enjoy, and is going to be at least like a 3-star, then I'll pick it up. I don't know what possessed me to pick this up, and I have owned this for years. Would not recommend. If you're liking the same books that I am, I don't recommend this book at all. And I did read a Goodreads review where someone was like, this stuff isn't accurate to the area which it is set, which is obviously quite big. Like, if you're going to sell it in an area, do it right. And it's got that, like, southern, like, speech, which is kind of overused, I think, and for me detracts from the story, and it is quite descriptive. Honestly, this could have been a novella. It could have been 180 pages and done with by now. And you'd get every single bit of the story that you need, but unfortunately not. I'm just excited to finish it and get it off of my currently reading. But again, like I said, I'm going to read the Christmassy ones first. And then like I'll use like Harry Potter as like my intermediate one, where I do, because I think with Harry Potter you can just kind of work through it, like do a chapter at a time, and have it not detract from the story. But that's with Harry Potter. But also that could just be because I've read it and I've watched the movies, so I know like the general plot. I'm going to be awake for more hours like this morning, I hope, although I am starting to feel kind of more tired now. So 3 o'clock might be a bit of a struggle, so maybe I should move properly to this chair and do some reading here. I'm desperate to get into a new book, but I can't. I've got 7 more books to read, and if I get through the 3 that I want to for this month, that would take it down to 14. And I've still got my night shift. I might do some reading on my night shift, but I also might go have a nap. Like, when I say have a nap, like I mean on my break. Very much a big emphasis on that. Sometimes I'm able to get like a chapter here or there in the middle of my shift, but it's rare. It is rare. Although I did have once where like my colleague that I was working with was reading Keeping 13. She'd read like Binding 13 like a few days previous. Like, she was into them. She'd seen them on Book Talk as well, and we were both just reading, which was quite nice. That was during like a rare moment. I might read The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year next, just because I'm kind of in the mood for that, and like the mystery is picking up from this point. I have an hour and 48, so just under 2 hours to go, so I can easily do that this morning. I have to say I do love the cover. It's currently now just before 5:30. I finished The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. It was really enjoyable. Didn't expect the like hit after hit after hit, but I loved it. But not only that, I finally fucking done it. I did skim through a good portion. Mainly the bits where it was like descriptive. I was like, I don't need this. I've read this like 4 other times. So I've rated it 2 stars. I actually had like tears in my eyes towards the end about something related to Jumpin, one of the characters, because like the overall story wasn't interesting to me at all. But he's the character where honestly I could probably have read more about him. He was more interesting than, and like his, like the little glimpses of him we got. And it could just be because it's like I'm getting like more tired and it was like 5 o'clock at this point, so of course I'm like more emotional anyway. But yeah, I still gave it a 2 stars, obviously. Like, it didn't up the rating, but it did surprise me that I was emotional, which means, if I'm not mistaken, I think my currently reading is now 15. Yeah, so I've got 15 books left on my currently reading. I've still got the Gingerbread Christmas Village. I think that's going to be like my next goal. Or, as I've got it in front of me, I could continue with Wuthering Heights. I say continue. I don't even know how far into Wuthering Heights I was. Although in reality, I think I'd have to read it all over again because I don't remember those 19 pages. 295 pages. I don't know what I'm going to read next, or actually I might go to sleep. Well, I need to eat something first, but then I will go to sleep. But in some ways, I kind of needed to force myself to finish Where the Crawdad Sings, because I wouldn't have picked it up again. But it's safe to say this is definitely being unhauled, donated. I hope someone else actually enjoys it. That was probably the one that I wanted to get off the most, in terms of how much I wasn't looking forward to it and like how much I wasn't enjoying it. And I think that would have always been looming over me if I hadn't have pushed through. But at least I know to never go for ones where they're written in that like prose or that kind of atmosphere. I will see you guys when I wake up later today. I don't know what I'm going to read. Maybe the Gingerbread Village one, but then I'm probably more likely to pick up my Kindle. So what book? I kind of want to change the book to a different cover. Don't think I want to change it to Harry Potter. Actually, we've still got Swim to Me, which I've got about 4 hours remaining of, so I'm in need of a romance. And this is an arc that I should have reviewed months ago. In fact, they've just put out the thing for the arcs for the sequel to that. I've took this from 21 on my currently reading to 15, so I've read 6 books in this video. This is not a realistic week. I love how I was going to title this a realistic week of reading. No, this is not a realistic week of reading. This is completely unrealistic. I never finish this many books in a week. I think some of it is because I'd done some of the legwork earlier in the month. I just hadn't bit the bullet and finished a book, and I finally got around to doing that in this video. I do find that a lot of the times videos kind of motivate me more to actually pick up a book, because otherwise I forget to pick up a book. Sometimes I'm fine. I think it's because I'm bad at filming, so I try to make sure that what I'm reading can fit into a video whilst I'm still relatively mood reading. Luckily, the TBR that I'm carrying over, I can create like a different video from that that's not mood reading. Okay, so it's now the next morning. It's actually like 5:20. So I read for a very small amount of time. I've got pins and needles on my phone, it's really annoying. I read for a very small amount of time of Swim to Me. Where is my Kindle? Oh, there it is. Of Swim to Me. I've switched my phone around for a very brief moment because it's on charge, so it's really hard to tell where to look. But yeah, so I read this and I think I got through maybe like 7-ish%, maybe a little bit more. But I realised that Swim to Me had never been in my currently reading. So I had to add it. So now my currently reading is at 16. So it just means I've got 6 books to read before I can start something fresh. Which, you know what, not great, but hey ho. Now, I caught up on some YouTube videos. I played some Sims 4. Like, I did some, like, Sims 4 builds. Like, very basic. And then I got to, like, half 2, half 3. And I was kind of, like, just doom scrolling on YouTube. No purpose, no videos were calling to me. I didn't fancy reading. And so I decided to write. I continued working, so I talked about writing back in December. I'm not working on that manuscript. I wanted to jump back into one that I'd started months ago, maybe a year ago. I'd worked on it way more recently than that, but I've just done like a little writing session, and I've done 2,100 words in maybe the past 2 hours. Just because I knew that I had like a little bit of a scene to write. It's not like it's a big scene overall for multiple things, and I did add in like a very short bonus point of view, just like what's probably equivalent to like 1 book page, but I wanted to add that in. I don't know, I felt like it added something. And like the things is I'm at, so apart from, how many words am I at? So I've got like a little note to myself of like how I want the story to progress, but let's see how many words I've officially done so far. Granted, this does include like when I put like chapter, like whatever, and also like underneath I've then put whose point of view it is. So I have done 19,258 words, and I haven't even officially had the love story start. Like in this last scene, all I've done is she now has his number. They've basically not spent any time together so far. It's all like, some of it's background, some of it's just like with their like friends and whatnot, and like in their own headspace, but in like a good way. I'm expecting this to be around like the 75,000 word mark. I've done about 26,000, not, Jesus Christ, I've done about 26 single lined pages of this document. That'd be like what, 112 pages, maybe 106 actually when I take off for like maths and everything. We're making some nice progress. I sort of have like a vague idea of what I'm gonna have the conflict be. Like I know the general, like what I want the conflict to be, but I don't necessarily know how it's playing out, which in some ways is exciting. I'm really excited. I'm working tonight, so I don't know what reading I'm gonna get done tonight. Like tonight and like over my night shift.